I am here with Tom Kelly, CEO of IDX. Welcome, Tom.
Hey, good to be here.
Can you tell us a little bit about yourself before we dig into our topic of the day?
Well, sure. You've already taken away my part of my given. I'm the CEO of IDX, and the IDX is the largest breach response company in the country in terms focused on protecting those who have been impacted by breaches and providing a broad array of privacy and protection capabilities for those once they've been breached. And we service large government agencies, large parts of the federal government, state, local, and all kinds of Fortune 500 companies. Last year, we touched 60 million people, to put it in perspective. So we're one of the largest privacy and protection companies you never heard of, because we're quiet, and we like it that way, quite frankly. And prior to that, I've been on while this is not core cyber work at IDX, I've been in the cyber field now for at least well over 10 years now, both in terms of protecting the companies and then actually running a cyber company itself, a cyber response company. So, and I do a lot of work advising at the government level and the state and local.
Very good. So let's talk about this issue that we wanted to discuss, which is, so we have there's a war in Ukraine, which has seen a lot of cyber war activity. And what do you think that American cybersecurity managers, American businesses should be paying attention to or taking away from this situation?
Okay, well, let's start with who's involved in the Ukraine. It's Russia. Russia has in fact launched this aggression into the Ukraine. Part of the Russian playbook is in fact to use cyber warfare. And in fact, you can't just say the Russian playbook. You'd have to say that modern warfare today utilizes cyber as an essential component of their ability to disrupt the communications, the infrastructure, the things that are essential to providing a response or defense, however you want to characterize it. It's an essential part of in fact, modern day warfare. Russia has, in fact, utilized it probably more aggressively than others. And the fact that it's Russia also highlights the fact that if you go back over the last number of years, some of our most well-known cyber attacks, some of our most well-known cyber events have been traced either to Russian state actors or to enterprises that operate within Russia under the presumption that we believe, very strongly believe, and support that it's either got the tacit or direct approval of the Russian government, or possibly even in concert. And so things like Colonial Pipeline that we're aware of, which was a ransomware attack, against Colonial Pipeline, JBS Foods, another very likely or possible that SolarWinds, which was not a cyber attack, that was a pure intelligence effort that had the impact of, in fact, those still penetrating and gaining all kinds of information. These are all Russian linked, and there's more, okay? Russian linked events. So the fact that Russia is the aggressor and is at war in Ukraine, the fact that they have utilized their cyber capabilities in the past, both in wartime, they did it in the Crimea conflict, but also in non-wartime, in what we call, if it's a Cold War, however you want it, they've used it effectively against U.S. interests. Infrastructure interests and business interests in the U.S. And therefore, that highlights, that's a wake-up call to anybody who is not focused on their cyber defenses certainly at the government level, but even at the enterprise level, individuals. This is a wake-up call to maybe take a closer look at what you might have put on the back burner and maybe needs to be pulled forward.
Do you think, I basically agree with you. I mean, I think one thing that some companies might say is, well, we make ping pong paddles or something, so we're not really concerned that we're going to get hacked by in a war. But do you feel that companies that are maybe don't consider themselves to be in the front line should also be paying attention to this?
Oh, definitely. You are not a likely target till you are. That's kind of, you're not on the list until all of a sudden, oh my goodness, why? Because, you could have somebody come after you because in fact, you're a ransomware opportunity. This ransomware has become, a thriving business. When you think about these, I mean, Colonial Pipeline was ransomware, JBS was ransomware. And so this doesn't have to be strictly a intelligence effort like SolarWinds. This can be a ransomware attack, which is designed to shut you down until you pay, until you get it back. I just did an interview this morning on attacks into educational, and they were using this Lincoln College, this 157-year-old college in a rural part of Illinois gets a cyber attack, a ransomware attack. And granted, they were challenged. They had some financial. A lot of these smaller colleges are struggling with how they balance their budget and everything else going on. But this one put them over the edge. This is tragic. That college is shutting down, and it's a historically Black community, and it's just nothing but tragic. That's what I call it. It's sad. And so, if you are a ping pong paddle company, who knows? What if you sold your ping pong paddles to, in fact, the National Guard for part of their recreational capabilities or some other, and you might have an access point into somebody else. A supply chain attack could target you because they might say, a ping pong paddle company, they're probably not worried about their cyber defenses, but they're probably connected in the purchasing area to certain people that we'd like to get access to in the supply chain. So there's all kinds of reasons for every kind of company, either to protect themselves or to understand that they could be part of a broader supply chain that lead them to another target.
Yeah, that's a good point. That a seemingly innocuous company, if it has like a government contract, could provide an attack path to get into other parts of the military supply chain or whatever. And I'll tell you, when the Colonial Pipeline episode took place, I actually wrote a story about this. I investigated this. I don't usually do this, but I investigated and I broke a story that attack actually shut off fuel supply to several Air Force bases because they were getting the jet fuel from the pipeline, and it was, to me, very revealing that this was that was a military attack essentially.
But it's a test case. So think of this: JBS food infrastructure, Colonial Pipeline fuel infrastructure. Where else? Some of the logical targets would be banking, but of course, banking probably invests more than anybody, the financial services, in terms of protecting their cyber world. But what about power plants, water supply? I mean, we go down the list, and anybody who happens to be in the supply chain for providing services or goods or anything to these companies needs to be aware. CISA, who has called up they called the Shields Up initiative that they launched after the Ukraine invasion by Russia, and that was kind of a reminder to all. Government can't do this on its own, and enterprise can't do it on its own. So there really needs to be a real cooperative effort here in strengthening our cyber defenses.
Do you also, on a related note, something that we discussed previously, do you feel that digital transformation initiatives are increasing vulnerability in these companies?
Sure. The digital footprint. I mean, we're a digital world. Think of what happened during this last 2 years with everybody going remote, and all these CISOs or CIOs, whoever is responsible for the security footprint, now has to not only secure. They walk into the office. We know what we're doing with our office. Our perimeters there with our devices and our computers. But now everything is in someone's home. So you now have to extend your blanket, your umbrella, your protection to these remote places and all these devices, some of which are bring your own devices. These are the same devices sometimes where people are perusing social media, one of the most dangerous areas for cyber threats. Still today, when you think of ransomware attacks and cyber and breaches, any kind of a breach, over 80, I think it's like 83% of it is still coming from passwords, phishing. Somebody who, in fact, responds to a phishing attempt and exposes their credentials, which then are used to penetrate. And so this has created this, expanding our digital footprint, our digital world. It was no question has has expanded the risk and the attack surface. The attack surface of where these threats are coming from.
Yeah, it makes sense that as you create more connectivity between remote users, between systems, between corporate campus and the cloud, and people accessing cloud resources from home and stuff, you're just adding more attack surface.
Yeah, just think of your home. Think of all the connectivity in your home. You and I are sitting here on Zoom here. We've got our laptops, we've got our iPhones, we have our iPads. We might even have a smart meter that is connected into our house, which also could be then connected into our Wi-Fi, which would then be connected into whatever our network is going on, and our own network on that. We conduct our business for we do financial work, educational work, social work, all on this. Oftentimes in unsecured environments. There is, that I don't want to make everybody, before it was digital, you had certain threats that you were aware of. If you went to a city you were not familiar with, you probably would not wander around in the dark in certain areas if you don't know the area. I mean, you're going to be a little more cautious. That's intuitively. Right. You don't wander around digitally without having some kind of understanding of the risk that you're doing. And that's why we, individuals need to strengthen their cyber response too, which, as well as companies.
So what do you think that American businesses should do? I mean, as you said, the war has definitely raised the threat level. So what do you think people should do? I mean, what would be their priority at this point?
Well, I think public boards are a good way to look at it right now. How are your cyber policy and cyber response is in fact cyber risk. I got to believe in. I can't imagine there's a public board in the country anymore that is not a standard agenda item when they meet, and it better be. And so, what are they doing on there? You're looking and say, well, what have we done to kind of put the walls up around our data? Let's just call it that. I want to get into technical terms on that. Put the walls up, the things that we do that say we protect our data. But then what do we do to, in fact, protect who's getting in and out of that data, within our organization? So moving to things like zero trust environments, which relies upon multi-factor authentication. Just because I'm a known user with my name, my credentials, when I log in, there should be no presumption that I am who I say I am. They need to, in fact, verify that. And that's typically most easily done through some kind of a multi-factor authentication, either through, there's so many different ones, but, the most obvious one is the one where you get the little, the text or the SMS to your device, your separate device, which gives you a code that verifies on a secondary path that who you are. Password hygiene, the fact that we change these passwords, that we update them, restricting what endpoints can be used, and putting endpoint protection on those devices. These are a whole list of things. And critically, and I say this over, it is not if you're going to get breached, it's when. And so you had better have a response plan that says, in the event that we are compromised, how have I protected my data? How have I kept it offline so I can restore it as close to the date that things were compromised, so I can put myself back into business or back into service as rapidly as possible? So a communication plan and a data recovery plan has got to be, a data restoration plan has got to be in place. And there's more than all this, but this kind of at a top level, and that's true now for you or for me, offline storage, backing it up, not always in the cloud. Something that says, if somebody asks for $1,000, if you want to get your pictures back or your email addresses or this and that, or 5,000, well, I've got those things stored elsewhere too. I've got some, it's as practical that I'm changing my password, that I'm not clicking onto links, that I use a VPN, that I don't do my banking down at Starbucks where I'm having my latte on their open, unsecured network. And so, right. It's things like this.
Yeah, one interesting solution set that I've been seeing a lot of lately is this cyber risk quantification technology, where uses data analytics and artificial intelligence to put price tags on certain kinds of risks, so that you can have this dialogue between the board and the IT people.
Yeah.
Because this, I feel like, has been a big disconnect. Like, a lot of board people, they know a lot about risk management. It's not a strange topic to them, but they have trouble. Like, well, what does it really mean? The email server is going to get hacked. Is that a $10,000 problem or a $10 million problem? You know, can we put so these cyber risk quantification enables them to have a discussion using dollars.
Yeah.
As a way to.
Sometimes those are easy ones. Let's say you're a manufacturing company, and I say your whole supply chain system is going to be disrupted, which means your factory stops. Okay. You can start calculating, cha-ching. You can start calculating that immediately. But you're right. What if it's my email system? What if we're having trouble communicating internally? Well, we could probably, you can do by phone, you can go run around like that. You can go back to the old memos. Things would slow down for sure.
Sure.
Things would slow down.
Right. Or the cost to recover. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how many of us have mimeograph machines hidden in our closets.
I'm old enough to know what that means.
I know. I suspected. Okay. I hope I suspected I was bringing out, something that comes in the back for, you get to ask people, hey, did you ever grow up and did you ever know a world without a cell phone?
Yes, very much. Yeah. Well, wonderful, Tom. Well, this has been really interesting. I appreciate your insights and the warning that you have for everybody. So why don't we wrap up for now? But I'm sure we'll talk again another time.
I'd love to do that.
Okay. Thank you for being on. Okay.
Thank you for having me, you.
Okay.